Good morning, traders. This is Shane Scott, the moderator of Newsware's Trade Talk. At Trade Talk, we're providing you with the most up-to-the-minute news on the market, along with the facts, themes, and short-term trading ideas for the day ahead. Joining me today is our trading anchor, Bill Olson, who brings over 30 years of institutional trading knowledge to our program. We're going to get things started with our markets update. U.S. futures are rising higher this morning, with S&P futures up 0.11%, Dow futures up 0.04%, and NASDAQ futures up 0.27%. All in all, futures remain steady today, moving a little bit higher as investors weigh prospects for economic growth against inflation worries ahead of testimony from Fed Chair Jerome Powell. U.S. 10-year Treasuries have risen higher alongside the dollar, while Brent oil has dipped after climbing to $75 a barrel for the first time in over 2 years, as traders seek updates from OPEC on its response to a rapidly tightening market. Over in Europe, gains in real estate stocks were offset by declines in shares of banks and car makers. Over in Asia, equities rose the most in about 3 weeks, boosted by Japan. Bill, what are you seeing as far as market updates?
Well, Shane, I've been watching the S&Ps all morning long, and realistically, they're trading higher. They were flat to lower all morning. They made a slight turn upwards, so you're seeing them ticking higher by 0.14%, which is nice. But the market's really stalled, and it's stalled because, we got Jerome Powell speaking, and this market is really paying a lot of attention to anything related to inflation. Now, Powell's speaking today at 2 p.m., and he's likely to be taking questions on the outlook for inflation, the labor market, and this may offer some fresh insights into the potential pace of interest rate hikes and the easing of the Fed's bond buying program. You got to keep an eye on oil. Oil is starting to break. It's starting to show some weakness. Why? Because there's news reports out that Russia is going to be pushing for production caps to be lifted. That should be no surprise. Russia does this ahead of every OPEC meeting. The next OPEC meeting is July 1st. Now, the potential increases in production is enough to cause oil traders to really start closing some of those long positions, or at least selling off some of them in order to lock in some gains. You're looking over at the European markets. They did open up lower. They've since turned positive. They're now, essentially flat on the day. But I do think that, here in the U.S., you're going to see these markets continue to trade a little higher today, which is nice. We need it after last week.
Well, moving into earnings to watch today, looks like KFI did pretty well. Bill, why don't you tell us about it?
Well, Korn Ferry was a pretty good pick. I mean, they really did, deliver a nice solid beat last night. In fact, they beat by 23 cents on higher revenue. More importantly, they see the Q1 guidance at $1.04 to $1.14. Now, the estimates are 63 cents. So that's a huge increase in revenue expectations. You see the stock is trading higher by 4.5% this morning. Korn Ferry did a very good, came out with a very strong earnings number. And you would have to think so, because if you look at the unemployment data, it really showed hiring is increasing. So it's a very good likelihood that Korn Ferry stock was going to, be able to meet expectations when they released earnings this morning.
Any insights as far as upcoming earning announcements?
There's a number of good earnings announcements coming out, like Winnebago Industries. Winnebago Industries EPS estimate is $1.77. Now, the expected move here is $7.90. FedEx, that's ticker FDX, they're releasing Thursday afternoon after the close. Their EPS estimate is $2.36. They're currently priced for a 5.69% move. Nike, that's ticker NKE, they're releasing Thursday after the close. EPS estimate is 50 cents. The expected move there is 4.77%. Ticker DRI, Dryden Restaurants. They operate Chili's and other restaurants. Their EPS estimate is $1.77, and they're releasing tomorrow morning. The expected move here is 7.40%. And then let's take a look at Rite Aid. That's ticker RAD. They're releasing Wednesday morning as well. EPS estimate is 32 cents, and it's priced for a 13.3% move once the earnings are released.
Moving into our economic reports, Bill, tell us what we're seeing for reports today.
Well, at 8:55 this morning, we have the Red Book on retail sales being released. And at 10 a.m., we have the existing home sales. This is a big number. This is a market moving number. At 10 a.m., we have the Richmond Fed Manufacturing Index. And of course, at 2 p.m. today, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell will be speaking. I looked at my newswire and I was able to access the pre-release testimony notes from Jerome Powell. And, Chairman Powell plans to acknowledge that the rapid rise in inflation in recent months, while continuing to emphasize that the Fed officials believe this is transitory and moving back towards the longer-term 2% goal. He's going to point to base effects or comparative impact of low readings from early in the pandemic and supply bottlenecks that should be abated as among factors driving the recent price gains. So it's really nice to be able to get these pre-release notes, especially in something as important as Fed speak from Jerome Powell.
Moving into our morning's critical insights, starting off with some SPAC acquisition news. Pear Therapeutics will be merging with the SPAC Thimble Point acquisition, ticker THMA, for a combined value of $1.6 billion. The company will trade on NASDAQ under the ticker symbol PEAR. Another SPAC news, Quan Energy, ticker QNGY, an optical phased array provider, will be merging with the SPAC CITIC Capital, ticker CCAC, for a combined value of $1.4 billion. CCAC's share price is up 0.1% in pre-market. In other news, Kaijin Auto, ticker KXIN, is in discussion with the leading Chinese RV retailer about cooperation in a joint venture in exploring the RV market in China. The two companies intend to collaborate on RV sales and rentals, as well as the development of electric RV vehicles. In other news, Biopath, ticker BPTH, has been granted a new patent by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office related to the company's treatment for pancreatic cancer. Biopath's share price is up 29.89% in pre-market. In other news, the European Commission announced today that it has opened a formal antitrust investigation to assess if Google, ticker GOOGL, has violated the EU competition rules by favoring its own online display advertising tech services in the ad tech supply chain at the sake of competing providers of the ad tech services, advertisers, and online publishers. The investigation will examine if Google is in fact distorting competition by restricting access by third parties to user data for advertising purposes on websites and apps while reserving such data for its own use. News on Merck, ticker MRK. Merck shared that its phase 3 trial on Keytruda in combination with platinum-based chemotherapy met dual primary endpoints for overall survival and progression-free survival for the first-line treatment of patients with cervical cancer. Merck's share price is up 0.12% in pre-market. News on Tesla, ticker TSLA. Tesla is hitting roadblocks as it rushes to open its Gigafactory just outside of Berlin. Originally, the plant was set to open on July 1st, but it was forced to push back the date to the end of this year due to strong opposition from environmentalists and rising bureaucracy issues. As of now, the Gigafactory may not open until 2022, as the Central Environmental Agency has yet to give its approval. Among the issues include that the factory is being built on a piece of land where a drinking water protection zone is located, and it borders on a natural reserve. Tesla's share price is up 0.45% in pre-market. News on Carlyle Group, ticker CG. Carlyle Group is one of the bidders competing to acquire 70% stake in the South Korean automotive supplier Hanon Systems. Lastly for me, AstraZeneca, ticker AZN. More Australians are canceling inoculation of the company's COVID-19 vaccine over its perceived risks. So AstraZeneca's share price is down 0.51% in pre-market. Bill, what are you seeing as far as this morning's news?
Well, Shane, I break my news alerts down into specific segments. I'm looking for specific industries. I'm looking for specific events. It just helps me react quickly when I look at the data in this format. I look at my FANG alert every morning, and I see Facebook, ticker FB, Frank Boy. They're unveiling live audio rooms and podcasts for users in the U.S., according to a corporate blog posted yesterday. It's very similar to the Clubhouse, which is likely to be IPO later this year. Netflix did a deal with Steven Spielberg. It's a multi-year deal to make movies for Netflix. This is a big deal because they're really up against these deep-pocketed rivals such as Disney and Amazon. So this is probably a good move for Netflix. And another thing on Amazon, there's a call being sponsored today by Jefferies. And in this call, Amazon's antitrust expert, Lawrence Frankel, will be providing a summary of various investigations into Amazon practices and the investigations that pose the most risk. He's going to be touching on the impact of the new FTC chairwoman, Lina Khan, and talking about Amazon's potential legal recourses. I go over to my Dow Jones 30 alert. Boeing, ticker BA, they received a $169.5 million contract from the U.S. Department of Defense. And here's one on Apple, Taiwan Semiconductor. They said they're going to be giving top priority to automotive chips based on Apple orders. So we don't know who's going to be making Apple's cars, but we do know that they're going to have chips available to them. In terms of my option headlines, I'm seeing a lot of volatility and interesting data going through for the semiconductor segment. Micron, for example, the 30-day option implied volatility is at 39. You compare this to the 52-week range of 34 to 61. You also see it has 2.6 calls to every one put. A lot of the focus on the option activities in the July 77s and 85 calls. You got to remember, these guys are expected to release earnings on June 30th. Taiwan Semiconductor, that's TSM, 30-day option implied volatility is at 28 compared to its 52-week range of 25 to 53. Also take a look at AMD, Apple Michael David, call put ratios, 3.7 calls to every one put with a focus on the June weekly calls. This is really related to the merger deal that is expecting that merger to be approved. If so, you can see shares of AMD trading significantly higher from where it's at right now. In terms of events going on today, we have MasterCard, ticker MA, Michael Apple at 8:30 this morning. MasterCard is going to start their shareholders meeting. At 11 a.m., Dell Technologies, that's ticker DELL, David, Edward, Larry. They're having their shareholders meeting. DoorDash, ticker DASH, David, Apple, Sam Henry. At 1 p.m. today, they start their shareholders meeting. And at 6:30 p.m., Airbnb, that's ticker ABNB, Apple Boy, Nancy Boy. They're going to be having their shareholders meeting. Stock really took a hit yesterday for that Airbnb. Maybe somebody knows something, but it's one to keep an eye on.
Moving into our Trade Talk picks for today, I'm picking one I spoke about, Merck, ticker MRK. It's really good news about how it's met all primary endpoints on this phase 3 trial for Keytruda and taking a great step for helping with cervical cancer. So a lot of statistical significance in its trial. So its share price is already up a little bit in pre-market. So it's seen some positivity, but it's not up that high. It was only up 0.12%. So there's definitely some room to move. So I think this is a good pick for us. What's your pick today, Bill?
I'm going with Micron. It's kind of an earnings play. It's an unusual option volume play. Earnings are next week. Option volumes, that focus on the July 77s and 85 calls is very interesting. Heavy call put ratio, 2.6 calls every one put. Brokers are very positive on the stock. The whole industry looks like it's posed for another nice move. I'm going with Micron today. Ticker MU, Michael Under.
Well, moving into what's hot off the press, this is the news that's hitting the tape as we speak. That'll be moving the stocks today. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, Bill, seeing the headlines streaming in, which are the ones we should be letting traders know about?
Alcoa, ticker AA, Apple. China's to sell 20,000 tons of copper, 50,000 tons of aluminum from state reserves. You can also look at this as FCX and Alcoa, Frank Charlie X-Ray and Apple. Caterpillar, ticker CAT, Charlie Apple Tom. They're in development for zero emission vehicles for mining. That's pretty interesting stuff. Caterpillar's been really hit. It had a nice bounce back yesterday, but it was down heavy last week. So it's due for a little leg higher.
Proterra, ticker PTRA, and Miami-Dade County have announced a landmark fleet electrification project featuring 42 electric transit buses they'll be using in the city.
There's one on Johnson & Johnson. JP Morgan is coming out saying that Johnson & Johnson's best case is to settle that opioid lawsuit. There's one on Amazon. They have their Amazon Prime Day going on today. Well, the amount of volume that they do on Prime Day is likely to really test the limits of the e-commerce giant Swift delivery capabilities.
One on Blackstone. ticker BX. Blackstone has agreed to acquire Home Partners of America in an all-cash deal valued at $6 billion. Here's a stock watch for everybody. It's a one on Anavex, ticker AVXL. It's down over 10% in pre-market after pricing at $50 million direct offering.
Alaska Air, that's ticker ALK, Apple Larry Kilo. They just put out an 8K filing where they narrowed their Q2 revenue view to down 33 to 35%. Previously, they expected down 32 to 37%. So they narrowed it lower.
Opco's Health, ticker OPK, is launching a COVID-19 testing for Royal Caribbean, ticker RCL. So it'll be testing the crew and the guests who will be cruising on the upcoming cruises for the company. Anything else interesting for you, Bill?
No, that's all I'm seeing today, Shane.
Same here. So that'll do it for what's hot at the press. But traders, keep in mind, you can receive the same breaking news that we do simply by subscribing at newsware.com. Check us out for a free trial today. Moving into our scoreboards, talking about how our picks did from Monday. I had Winnebago, ticker WGO, which opened at $63.19 and had a steady day of consistent gains all the way to the high of $65.50 for a 3.65% gain before closing just a tad lower at $65.01. So a really good move for us. How did yours end up doing, Bill?
Well, I did Corn Ferry, that's ticker KFY. Yesterday when we were talking about it, the stock was at 62.80, but it actually wound up opening up higher at 63.69. It hit a high for the day of 65.51 and closed out at 65.12 for a 2.25% gain. You look at it this morning because the earnings came out and they were so positive, and the stock's trading at 68.10, which is up another 4.58% from yesterday's close. So that was a big win.
Nice. Well, that's going to do it for us here at Trade Talk with Traders. You know what to do. Let's get out there. Let's make some green.